Hello, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and I'm joined by Fabrizio Romano for the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. How are you doing, Fabrizio?
No, my friend, all good. Thank you. All good, very good. And thank you again for the invitation.
Good. We were just talking briefly before the start there about a quiet transfer window, and Fabrizio thinks it might get busy. Do you think it's going to get busy for Manchester United in the next, 9 days now?
Yeah, I don't think super busy, but there could be some opportunity. I think this is going to be the plan, the idea. If there is something interesting on the market, Man United will be ready. Otherwise, they can keep the current squad. But I think the big work happening behind the scenes is the real important story for Man United. So obviously, they are working on the future, on the summer transfer window. And let me say there is also something that I can understand, because not just for Man United, but in general, it's a very quiet window. There are no big names around. It's very complicated to sign important players now. So maybe there could be some opportunity in the final days also for United, but nothing special or super big.
I want to talk about a few stories that we've heard. First of all, and I'll give you a little bit of a clue what we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes. Barada and what you'd expect him to do at the club, whether we'll see the sort of Pogba signings or something a little bit different. But there was a story that came in from a London news outlet about an hour ago saying that Manchester United have offered Antony and Sancho to Saudi Arabia. Now, we understand from Manchester United that that's not the case with Antony. Have you heard anything as to why that story might be out there? Any truth in that?
No, I don't think this is the case. I think there could be maybe some intermediary trying to find solutions and then go to Man United and the agents of Antony or any other player and try to offer the player this possibility. So maybe someone is working from Saudi side, to bring a club to the table. This could be the case for sure, because many people are trying to do this in the recent months with all this movement from Saudi. But Man United have not activated any option to sell the players, at least now, to Saudi clubs. I think in the summer it could be a different story. We will see what Man United will decide with Antony, with Sancho, with Mason Greenwood. There are going to be some big decisions to make internally for these players, but for January nothing is happening. I think on Antony we heard many fake stories also about Brazilian clubs. That was never the case for Antony to go back to Brazil, despite the rumors on Flamengo or any other club. So nothing is going to happen and nothing is going to change, I think, in the next 9 days for these players.
And also an interesting story coming out of France that Napoli, Chelsea, and quite a few about Spurs with Todibo. There was also a story saying a 50 million price tag on him, but Nice would like to keep him till the summer. Is there any chance that, because this is a player that many Man United fans think will come to Manchester United, I suppose there's two questions there, Fabrizio. Do we think Todibo will stay until the summer? And if Man United moved for him, do you think Man United would pay 50 million? Or do you think this would be a little bit like when Sesko went from Salzburg to Leipzig with Sir Jim Ratcliffe owning the club? Would you expect Manchester United to pay top dollar for Todibo, or do you think there might be a reduced price there?
Honestly, I tell you the truth, on the price, I have no idea, because I don't think it's going to happen now. My feeling and my sources keep telling me that Todibo is going to be a name for the summer. So Tottenham wanted him in December. Napoli have an interest, but it's almost impossible to sign Todibo for Napoli for the financial conditions and the package. Chelsea are scouting the player, but from what I'm hearing, Chelsea never started a concrete negotiation or never called Nice to start a negotiation for Todibo. So at the moment, the Todibo situation is completely quiet. We know he's on Manchester United list for the future. He was already for the summer transfer window, because even before this Ineos story, he was the player they wanted next to Benjamin Pavard when they had to replace Harry Maguire, and then the Maguire deal collapsed and nothing happened. But Todibo is approved by Erik ten Hag. Todibo is approved by people at the scouting department, and obviously now with Ineos coming in, they know the player so well. So I think Todibo is going to be on Manchester United list in the summer. This is my feeling for sure, because he's a player that I really appreciate. I think there are going to be multiple centre-backs. For example, Antonio Silva, they scouted him multiple times. I think we should keep an eye also on Giroud at Lille, who is in the list of Paris Saint-Germain too. Man United and Paris Saint-Germain are going to similar players. So I think they will be busy on similar deals in the next weeks and months. But at the moment, for Todibo, my feeling is that we have to wait for the summer transfer window, because there is still no movement. And the only way is to pay big money. So I think at the moment the price is not clear, because they don't expect the player to leave in the January window.
One of our members in the chat, Matthew Gartell, has mentioned De Ligt. It wasn't on my list to ask you, but I will ask you that. Last week we saw, I think it was Plettigol mentioning De Ligt. Doesn't seem to be settled at Bayern. Obviously played for Ten Hag in the past. Do you think De Ligt could be on the move again? He's been Ajax, Juventus, Bayern.
I think he could be on the move. Linking with Man United is easy because obviously they're going for a centre back, and so an important player like De Ligt with a manager like Ten Hag could make sense. But it's not only Man United. I think there could be many clubs in the race, and I would wait for Man United to appoint a new director of football to understand who is the player they really want to sign, because the defense and especially the new top centre-back is going to be a crucial signing for Man United in the summer. This is something they're already working with the scouting department, with Erik ten Hag involved since the end of September. They had some internal conversation on the new centre-back, and they have this plan to sign a top centre-back in the summer, and it could be 2 centre-backs, one top one and maybe one for present and future. So I think it's going to be a really important decision. So before mentioning 50 names, I think it's important to see what Man United really want to do in that position in terms of, okay, he's a player we like. But for sure, De Ligt could be one of the names to watch in the summer, because the reality is that he could be quite open to leaving Bayern in case an important opportunity is going to be there on the table.
It's a great point about the director of football. We were talking about this last night, all these links to Elise and Todibo and everything like that. It's somewhat pointless because we don't know who the director of football is, and they will come in with their own idea. We've seen. I'm going to ask you about Berardi. We saw it at the weekend, but there was some stories coming out that Manchester United's next action is Dan Ashworth, with Paul Mitchell working with him. You work in the transfer industry, Fabrizio. I mean, I would love to be talking to you about what they will bring to Manchester United, but do you think Dan Ashworth and Paul Mitchell is something United fans should be starting to think is going to happen, or do you still think it could be paper talk?
No, I keep saying about Dan Ashworth. I said it here in the last 2-3 weeks, and I keep saying also today that Man United Ineos are working hard to try to find a way to bring Dan Ashworth to the club. It's not easy because obviously he's really committed to Newcastle project and they want him to stay there, but they're really pushing. And it was also not easy to bring in Omar Berrada, who was fantastic at Manchester City for many years, and so Ineos were able to make it happen, and they want to make exactly the same with the director of football, and they want Dan Ashworth to be the face of the new project. So the feeling in the industry, and not just on Man United side, but in the whole industry, and also people who know Dan Ashworth very well, is that Man United will push again in the next days and weeks to make it happen. Then we have to see the structure they want to build. If they want Dan Ashworth alone with his staff to join him at Manchester United, or if they want to bring in another director like Paul Mitchell, who was used to work alone at Monaco and all the other opportunities he had in France. So if they want 2-3 directors to work all together with a model we saw also in other clubs, or if they want to go with a single director taking care of everything. This is the decision to make, but I think the face they want for this project is Dan Ashworth. So the conversation remains ongoing. Again, we have to see what Newcastle will say, but Man United will try for sure.
You mentioned Omar Berrada. What's your thoughts on this acquisition by Manchester United, Fabrizio? And to Manchester United fans, what do you think the difference will be? Because you work in the market, you know, Manchester United's reputation isn't great. They spend a lot of money on wages, transfers, agent fees. It's almost like clubs across Europe and the Premier League see Manchester United coming and go, with Berrada in place, how do you think that changes? Because he's spoken openly about moving away from deals for Man City because he didn't think the value was there. How do you think he's going to run Manchester United, and how do you think it'll have an impact on transfers and the type of signings that we make?
I think this is a fantastic addition for Manchester United. It's really like signing an important player, in my opinion, for the reputation he has in the industry, but also for how he knows how to work into top clubs in England, in the same city, in a complicated model, because Man City work as a group, not just as a single club. And so he knows how to work with, in this case, owners who already own different clubs. So how to create something special, not just at your club, but to create a whole system, a whole group working all together to make the club successful. So I think, yes, it's going to be important on the transfer market, on the process to bring in new players, to sell players at the right moment, at the right price, as Manchester City did for many years. They were fantastic, not just at signing players, but also at selling players at the right moment. This model is going to be really important for Man United, but I think it's going to be about the vision. What he's going to bring to Manchester United is the vision for present and future. He already has the experience at Manchester City, working next to monsters like Ferran Soriano, Chiki Begiristain for many years, but being crucial into Manchester City board, because he did really an incredible job on many deals. He was working behind the scenes. So I think he will help really Manchester United, Ineos, Sir Jim Ratcliffe to have the vision for present and future. It's not just about how they negotiate, but also how they see the project in many years. This is something that is not easy to find in the market. I think it was not easy to bring in someone from England to do that kind of job. Maybe it was easier to bring someone from Spain, from Italy. They had multiple names available on the table, but they wanted to go for him, and it was super quiet because it was really complicated. For Man City, was a really important figure, and now to have him at Manchester United, I think is a fantastic addition. Again, not just for the process they will do on the transfer market already in the summer transfer window, but I think also for the vision on long term. This is going to be really important. And my personal opinion is that Man United missed that kind of vision too many times in the recent years. You don't need to sign a player just for today or this season. Sometimes you need to have the vision. You can go with short-term solutions, but at the end you have to go with your vision for present and future. Omar Berrada is going to bring this to Manchester United, and I think this is really the best news possible for the club.
Fantastic. Thanks for that update, Fabrizio. And what do you think, just quickly before we move on, what do you think it means for Ten Hag? Do you think that this is a manager that would look to make a change in that area? I mean, I read something about him at the weekend saying it's about having a club that's in tune from top to bottom with the manager's vision and the playing style.
I think all the people involved in this story, including Omar Berrada and including the people joining from Ineos, they're all smart people. They know very well how football works, and they will have conversations with Erik ten Hag. They will involve Erik ten Hag in this process. It would be stupid to fire the manager and already go with something different just because they are not happy with the current situation. They will have a conversation with him. He's an important manager. He's not a caretaker manager. So there will be a conversation. There will be meetings. Already some meeting took place with people from Ineos. I'm sure Omar Berrada will now be involved in this process very soon with Erik ten Hag. So I think he will be 100% involved. Then it's about results, obviously, what they have to show on the pitch, not just Erik ten Hag, but also some of the players in the next months is going to be important to prove that they can be part of this Manchester United new project, of the new vision. This is really, really important. I think this is also about Omar Berrada. He knows very well how it works at Manchester City. You have to perform. Otherwise, in 1-2 years, you have to leave the club. Situations like some players who are staying at Manchester United for 3, 4, 5 years and then never leaving the club, this is something unacceptable. And this is something that will not happen again, I'm sure, at Manchester United with this new board. So I think they want to see results as soon as possible, but they've not decided anything about Erik ten Hag at all. They will have conversations, and I think this process will be absolutely normal.
A lot of people in the live chat talking about Benzema. I don't think it's going to be good news for Manchester United. I did see that he'd been away, uncontactable for quite a period of time. He's apparently back in Saudi Arabia now. New director of football or something like that there at the club he's at. Is he still looking to lose? Is there any possibility that he moves in the next few days?
Look, the situation is that Benzema is back. Benzema was back to training 2-3 days ago, but from what I've heard, he's training alone. So he's not training with the rest of the squad at Al Ittihad. The situation is quite tense between Benzema and Al Ittihad, but there are some problems. The problem, number one, obviously, is the financial package. It's not easy to afford this financial package for European clubs. And Saudi bosses, Saudi Pro League bosses, want Karim Benzema to stay in Saudi. So maybe he could leave Al Ittihad, but they want him to go and join another Saudi club. They don't want Karim Benzema to leave the Saudi Pro League after 6 months. So this is the other issue. They are going to push to find a solution internally with another Saudi club. Let's see if it's going to be possible. There is going to be a new round of talks this week to discuss this possibility. Let's see which club could sign Karim Benzema. In terms of European clubs, and so for Man United or any other, at the moment, to afford that financial package is impossible. So the only way to make it happen is for Karim Benzema to say, okay, I want to leave, I'm going to accept a big reduction of the salary, and in that case, it could happen. But at the moment, it's the only way to see Karim Benzema back to Europe. A huge salary cut, otherwise it's going to be impossible, at least for the January transfer window.
Terp in the live chat, one of our members, says, is Antony Martial staying now then? Obviously, I saw your tweet over the weekend from the in relation to what the agent had said, but this is a player that United were probably looking to move on. There's talk of an injury there now. What does that mean in relation to Choupo-Moting Martial? Does that end any striker loan deal if Martial stays now?
I would not say that it's going to end that, because maybe there could be an opportunity in the final days, so I will keep it open. But for Martial, he's basically very clear. When he received these possibilities from Turkey, for example, Fenerbahce, or some other possibility in France, he never wanted to proceed because he believes he can pick his next club whenever he wants, being a free agent in a couple of months. So he doesn't want to accept anything that he doesn't believe is the right solution right now. So he's prepared to stay at Man United, complete the season, and then pick his favorite option, his favorite club in the summer transfer window. Then, in case something happens the next days, maybe some injury or some change of plans at some of the clubs around Europe, and they decide to go for Antony Martial, and he could be attracted by that possibility, I will keep the story open. That's why I think, yes, Martial is staying, but maybe in the final days in the market, things can change fast, and in that case, he could be on the move. So the situation is quite clear. But for Man United, I will keep it open in terms of new striker, because if they have the right opportunity, I think Man United will be ready to make it happen.
Fabrizio, as always, that has absolutely flown by, but we've gone through absolutely loads there. And I know you're very busy in these last few days of the window. You think it's going to get busier? Maybe not around Manchester United, though.
I think yes. I think it's going to be busier in England in general, I think, in the next 2-3 days.
Fantastic, Fabrizio. Take care, and we'll speak to you next week. Haven't we got one more before transfer window deadline is? Yeah, it's not till next Wednesday, is it? Yeah, brilliant.
It's true. Yes. See you. Thank you. Ciao, guys.
Thanks, Fabrizio. Take care.
Bye.
Big shout out to Fabrizio there for joining us. I mean, it's not been the January transfer window many of us probably would have hoped it would have been, but I still think there's quite a lot of stuff in there to dissect if you've tuned in a little bit late. First of all, Antony and Sancho's story came out about midday today that Manchester United had offered Antony and Sancho to Saudi Arabia. Always interesting when you can get first-hand information from Fabrizio. We had been in contact with the club anyway. We tweeted about it half an hour ago that the Antony story is just completely fictitious. There's nothing in that. But I think it's interesting what Fabrizio says about where these stories can come from. The way the Saudi league works at the moment is there's a lot of intermediaries trying to do things. An intermediary is a middle person. So you've got Antony's agent, you've got Manchester United, you've got Saudi clubs, you've got the Saudi league. You'll have an intermediary who is basically just seeing what possibilities are there. And we've seen this with the Saudi league quite a lot. A player can be happily playing for a Premier League club and then suddenly they're going to the Saudi league. So it's a bit like the middle person who does a deal. They speak to the Saudi league. Would you like Antony? What would you pay? £50 million. Okay, let's speak to Antony's agent. Are you interested in it? Are Man United interested in it? And that's how these deals work. So quite clearly there is nothing to be furthered on that story, but it probably is coming from people who are looking to do some, sort of connections with Saudi Arabia. We're seeing it with Almiron and Newcastle today, which we covered on That's Football. Interesting when we asked Fabrizio about Barada, obviously he's going to know a lot about him. It's the industry he works in, transfers, etc. And it was very interesting to see that Fabrizio, one of the best transfer journalists in the world, and we talk about transfers because that's what we want to see. We want to see change. Visibly very excited about Barada and, visibly very impressed with what Manchester United have done there. And that's continuing, 2 days after the news was announced. You can be negative, you can be skeptical, you can be a cynic, and I certainly am when it comes to Manchester United. I think the journey is absolutely huge. But you can also admire a bit of business and go, that's a good appointment. And it is. And you listen to what Fabrizio had to say about Barada. It's about creating a vision. It's about creating a vision at Manchester United for years to come. And that is what he is going to be looking to do. It's not just about buying players. It is about selling players as well. I mean, Man City over the last 2 summers have made hundreds of millions of pounds on sales. Sterling, Zinchenko, Jesus, Cole Palmer. Like, Man City do buy players, but they also sell well. And if you want to succeed under this new FPL, FFP, financial fair play with teeth, which is what it's got. I mean, Newcastle are the richest club in the world. And I don't need to wear these anymore. Newcastle are the richest club in the world, and they're having to sell to buy, because they can't get that wealth into the club because it doesn't match Newcastle's revenue. And that's what financial fair play is all about. You can't spend money that your club doesn't generate, whether that be sales, revenue, whatever. So Newcastle can't get that wealth in from Saudi Arabia. So they've got to get creative, haven't they? Now, some might say, well, selling St. Maximin and Almiron to Saudi Arabia gets inflated transfer fees into the club, but that's legitimate at the moment. That's absolutely fine. But they're having to sell to buy. And I think selling is becoming a much bigger part of football than it ever was. And Man City are a good club at selling. Say what you like about Chelsea, but they always seem to get massive fees. That started off with David Luiz going to PSG for about 60 million a few years ago. So Man United need to be better at selling. And I think that was a really good observation by Fabrizio about Barada, that is something that he's going to be looking at. It's not just about recruiting. I think gone are the days of the Paul Pogbas and the Jadon Sanchos, and thank God for that, and the Di Marias as well. These silly short-term, Galactico signings that offer nothing except trouble. and they're very difficult to remove. So I think what we're going to see is a clarity and vision for Manchester United's future, without a shadow of a doubt. I did ask Fabrizio about Todibo. Now, if you're not aware of this, obviously I keep my ear to the ground on a lot of things. There's been a lot of stories about Todibo, especially today. Price tag set by Nice of 50 million because they want to keep him till the summer. Spurs circling again, Chelsea circling again, Napoli interested. It sounds like nothing's going to happen with Todibo till the summer. So if that's a player that you'd like United to sign, and I'll talk about what Fabrizio said about De Ligt in a moment, then we will have an opportunity in the summer to sign him, no doubt about that. But the thing that interests me is that if Nice are slapping a price tag of 40, 50 million pounds on him, at what point does the Nice ownership of Sir Jim Ratcliffe actually benefit Manchester United? I mean, look, sell him to Spurs for 50 million, I get it. But sell him to Man United for 30. Like, this is exactly what Salzburg did with Sesko. Chelsea and Man United were interested. We want 50 million. He goes to bloody Leipzig for about 25. So, look, we're a long way off that. It's the summer, but it makes no sense to me why Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who owns Nice, it's his football club. It's his football club. Doesn't own 25%. He's not a part shareholder. He owns Nice. If he wants to sell Man United to Todibo for 30 million, he can. So hopefully that will happen. PSG going for same players as us isn't good. They will run the price up for us due to the whole Qatar saga, says Aiden. Well, look, there will be a kickback on that. Of course there will. We're not here to talk about Qatar. Who knows what will happen if they actually do ask for a correction in that statement that came out last week. But, beware the wounded tiger. And I always said throughout the sale process, well, the most logical thing for Qatar to do is to go and buy another Premier League club and stick it up Man United. But having said that, the way financial fair play is working at the moment, it's not massively benefiting Newcastle, is it? They've still got to have the revenue there. Mario, sorry, I missed your chat. He says, are we scouting anything in the Brazilian market? Well, Man United have got scouts in Brazil. Whether we're actually scouting something in the Brazilian market, I don't know. That's the latest with Todibo. With De Ligt, I did ask Fabrizio about De Ligt, and I think the answer was what we were talking about at the weekend. All this Robbie, De Ligt, Elise talk, it's great. You can run it around your mind as to whether you want that type of player to come to Manchester United. Of course you can, but we also have to be logical here. How can we be trying to sign Robbie or De Ligt or Elise when we don't even have our director of football in place who will be in control of who we sign in the summer? So look, Dan Ashworth might come in and he might go, yeah, I do like Elise and I do like Robbie and I do like De Ligt, but it's a big step forward to do that at the moment. Charlon, you're an absolute legend. Our latest member, get your badge in the chat, Charlon. Thank you so much for your support. It means so much. Lovely to see some badges in the chat as always. And really appreciate your support. Thank you very much for joining. Appreciate that. Legend. But on Dan Ashworth, we asked Fabrizio about that one. I think De Ligt's just paper talk. I completely agree with Seba in the chat there. Dan Ashworth is the priority. And I am trying to find more about Paul Mitchell, but nobody will commit. Paul Mitchell was massively, I think I said 90% at the start of December. But I think it all depends on Dan Ashworth. I mean, Fabrizio made a great point. Paul Mitchell has been the guy who does the job at Spurs and Monaco and Leipzig. And does he want to work with Dan Ashworth? Does Dan Ashworth want to work with him? We see it as the dream team because you're combining two really good people there. But I wouldn't. You know what? Everyone wants Dan Ashworth. Can I just say, why does everyone think Dan Ashworth's better than Paul Mitchell? I literally thought about this before the show started. Why is Dan Ashworth better than Paul Mitchell? On what basis is he better? I think there's this assumption that Dan Ashworth's better than Paul Mitchell. I don't actually agree. I think Dan Ashworth's very, very exciting, but I think Paul Mitchell was as well. I mean, I remember Paul Mitchell being pictured with Ralph Rangnick and everyone was like losing their shit. I just think it's a little bit recency bias with Ashworth because he's at Newcastle. But I actually got a message from somebody. I don't know how accurate it is. And they said, Dan Ashworth didn't get Ben Bissouma to Brighton. He wasn't at Brighton that long. And he didn't get Bruno Guimaraes at Newcastle either. He wasn't there at that point. So, yeah, look, I would like them both. I would like to have the best of both worlds. That's what I would like to have. But Ineos, Manchester United are pushing for Dan Ashworth. I expect it to happen. I've spoken about it a few times, and I think I probably would have been, that's a difficult deal to do. But having just taken Man City's COO to be our CEO, I mean, if you can take someone like that from Man City and they don't want to lose them, somebody that's helped them build that club over the last decade. If you can take someone like that from Man City, you can take the director of football from Newcastle. So I expect that to happen. And the sooner the better, by the way. I mean, I think this is something that we can't, I think there's a time limit on Ashworth. I don't think we can be like, Newcastle or Ashworth might say, well, you can wait till May. I don't think we can wait till May. I don't know how we do that deal, actually, because here's a great point about Dan Ashworth. You get him, but he doesn't start until June. Well, that doesn't benefit anyone. Like, that doesn't benefit us. He can't really be working for Newcastle when he's leaving in the summer anyway. So you need to get that deal done ASAP. Maybe Dan because of his Premier League experience is Akil, but Mitchell's got that with Southampton and Spurs. He has got that. And also, I don't know that Premier League experience is that important, because if you think about it logically, we don't want to be buying a lot of Premier League players. They're overpriced. We want to be buying a lot of European players. So Paul Mitchell, again, comes back into it there. But I would like both. Jelly Sheen is our latest member. Well done. We're getting some members in today. Thank you very much, Jelly. You're an absolute legend. Thanks for supporting the channel. Appreciate that. What else did we talk about? We spoke about the CEO. Oh, yeah. Choupo-Moting, Anthony Martial. Anthony Martial is not going by the looks of it, is he? He's recovering from an injury. He wasn't impressed in the options that he had in Turkey or France. Quite rightly, I think Anthony Martial is the master of his own destiny. And if you've got an option of Turkey and France in January, imagine how many options he's going to have in the summer when he's fit. So I think Martial's going to run his contract down. I'm not dismissing the fact that he's got an injury. It might be a convenient injury, but I don't think he is going. I mean, some people will say the injury's a joke. He's just doing that to use it as an excuse so he doesn't get a load of shit, and United don't get a load of shit. But look, Fabrizio, I asked him about Choupo-Moting, and he said, look, I wouldn't rule it out. We spoke before we started the video, and I brought it into the video as well, and we mentioned it at the end. There are 9 days left in this transfer window, and Fabrizio does expect it in the Premier League to get very busy. So, yeah, it's been very, very quiet, and it feels like it will stay quiet. But he said to me a couple of times, one off air and one on air, that he's expecting it to get very busy around the Premier League in the next week. Many of you will be saying, why do clubs leave it till the last week of the transfer window? Money, really. There's not many games in January. So if you bring a player in at the start, you're paying them 3 weeks' wages when they're not playing games. So that can be 300-400 grand. I think clubs wait till the end of the window to save on wages, but also because other clubs get desperate and they might bring their price down. There might be more opportunities. I think that's why it happens, of course. I'm a big fan of what Spurs have done. Get Werner in and that centre back in early, get them in, training with the team. There's not many games at the moment, so you can be training on the training ground. But a lot of clubs leave it late because of Man United leave it late because of financials. We did it with Bruno Fernandes. We needed Bruno Fernandes. Like, we lost to Burnley the week before we bought him. So, but we kept it late because it's always about the money. That's what it's always about. So look, I wouldn't rule out, again, United doing something in the market. It won't be anything amazing, though. It won't be something exciting. So it's that old balance again. Would you rather have it? Would you rather have something or nothing? And I think you're always going to want something because we haven't got enough of what we need. So the scary thing is, if you bring Choupo-Moting in and he does okay, you give him a full-time deal, and you've got a 35-year-old striker next season. That's worrying to me. On Benzema, we asked about Benzema. He is training on his own, is what Fabrizio has heard. Benzema is back. He'd been not missing for 10 days. They had a mid-season break, but he'd not been contactable. I think he was in Mauritius or something like that, or the Maldives. He's come back to Saudi now. He's training on his own. It's a very tense situation. But the problem is he's on about, I can't remember what he's on. I think he's on about 80 million pounds a season. Pounds, not dollars, not euros. So he's on about 1 point something million pounds a week. Nobody's going to be able to cover that wage. So Fabrizio says that what they're trying to do is keep him within Saudi and move him to a different club, which looks like it will be looks like it's a club problem for him. But very, very, very unlikely that he will be, well, he won't be coming to Man United. I'll be stunned, but very unlikely he'll get out there at all, if we're being honest. Up the Red Devils says that Tommy Kidd, who's been a member for 7 months, it's an obscene amount of money, and Man United won't go anywhere near that. Man United won't go anywhere near that. But he could go to Al Nassr with Cristiano, says Terp. Well, Fabrizio, I mean, Cristiano seems to be very, very happy in Saudi Arabia, doesn't he? He was talking about it at the weekend. But yeah, I don't see. Well, Benzema's not going to be coming to Man United. That's the main thing. I don't think it's going to be easy for him to get out of that league at all. Anyway, look, thank you everybody for tuning in. I'm back on the 8 o'clock show. Fantastic video. Really enjoyed that. Some really good updates, and I really enjoyed that bit that Fabrizio said about Berardo, because I think, you know, we've got to take it for what it is. It's a very impressive piece of business. Very impressive. Most impressive. Yeah, that's where we're at the moment. Thanks everyone for watching. I'm back at 8 o'clock tonight. Yes, it is 8 o'clock tonight. 7 o'clock tomorrow because I'm doing Carabao Cup, but 8 o'clock tonight as normal. Let's see what this week brings. I think we are on the verge of something at United, by the way. Or, well, you could say we're always on the verge of something, but I think we are on the verge for career mode's back this week. Daniel, thank you very much for reminding me about that. You all take care as well. Some lovely messages in there. Take care. Definitely take care when you're out and about or in the bath or whatever you're doing. Yeah, well, I think this director football thing is going to happen sooner rather than later, because the sooner it happens, the better. Take care, everyone. I'll speak to you in a bit.